What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. My name is Jeff. Now, this is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. That sounds interesting? Hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, why don't we jump into our review? Today, we're looking at the Hazelburn 10-year-old. Stick around. So we have a Hazelburn with us today. We have the 10-year-old with us. For those of you who don't know, Hazelburn is going to be the unpeated expression from the Springbank Distillery. And Hazelburn by itself is, without a doubt, a very successful brand or sub-brand. But I don't think it's quite as popular as the other Springbank brands out there. That, of course, includes Springbank itself, as well as Longrow, which is going to be their peated or heavily peated expression. That being said, any release from Campbeltown under the Springbank banner is still going to be highly sought after, and this is no exception. And unfortunately, that's reflected in the price of this bottle in some markets. Much like Springbank 10, you might get overcharged for this stuff. Now, of course, we're going to touch on all that when we get into value, but be aware that the price for this bottle can be iffy. Anyway, back to Hazelburn. This is the only Springbank release to be triple distilled. You have Longrow, which is going to be double distilled, and Springbank, which is 2.5 times distilled. Because of that, this often gets compared to Irish whiskeys, which themselves are usually triple distilled. The general rule of thumb with distilling is the more times you distill a whiskey, the softer, gentler, and rounder it's going to become. So, of all the Springbank expressions, this one should be the softest, and I realize that is going to turn some people off, which might help explain why this is actually the least popular of the Springbank brands. Because Campbeltown whiskeys are known for being like rugged and tough and challenging, and this one isn't. This is a gentle whiskey, and to its credit, it's not trying or pretending to be anything but. Anyway, this one hasn't seen very much fancy cask play. I believe it's only been matured in bourbon barrels, and honestly, if it came from a lesser distillery, a 10-year-old, unpeated, triple distilled, bourbon matured whiskey wouldn't sound very sexy to me. It's definitely not my preferred style of whiskey. But this is a Springbank, and regardless of what they put out, you know it's going to have some serious character, some serious personality. So why don't we see how this one stacks up? Why don't we hop into a review of it, see what it's all about, and in the meantime, if you can kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Well, nothing too shocking here. Springbank always delivers. This is going to be 46% ABV, non-chill filtered, natural color. We got a nice natural color to our whiskey. As for the bottle, we have our coin-looking design here. And listen, I know Springbank is whiskey Jesus and nothing bad can be said about them, but I don't love this bottle. I know they're all about the whiskey, spectacle be damned, and I realize the no frills, simple graphic design is in keeping with the Springbank brand, but I don't love it, and it's going to be a 2 out of 5 for presentation. Our label here says matured in oak, which really doesn't tell us very much. On the back, we have a little blurb which mentions that it's non-chill filtered and naturally colored, which is great. We have a bottling date down here. My bottle is from 2019, so a bit of an older one. Good info here. I do wish the bottle had a more premium look to it, but I mean, it's fine. Let's try our nose. Okay, very bright, fruity, inviting. It's an unpeated whiskey, but you do get little hints of peat in here. Some interesting mineral notes. On one side, you have these kind of like this rocky minerality. On the other side, you have like watery minerals, like mineral water. Very clean. You have honey, you have citrus, coconut oil. You have a little bit of papaya in here too, so it's very tropical. It's subtle, but it's complex. Let's try our palate. Beautiful velvety mouthfeel. It's oily, but not a heavy oil. It's like a light oiliness, a gentle arrival that kind of slowly builds. Coconut oil, coconut milk. There's some grilled pineapple in here, must, earth, minerals. There's some sea air, and you have a tiny hint of like lactic funk or milky funk. It's really cool. Now the finish. Okay. Yeah, so it's getting more herbal here. It's getting more floral here. More of that coconut. It's still creamy. I'm getting like papaya milk, honey milk. There's a slightly metallic note to this. There's some sea salt. What else? There's more of that grilled pineapple. We're lingering on citrus, more of those minerals, and again with that lactic funk, medium in length. So this is pretty cool stuff. They say that whiskey can be a transportive experience, and I think that's true. For example, if you drink a Talisker, you might be transported to like the rocky, rugged Scottish coastline. And that happens to me a lot with whiskey. Obviously, it's all mental, but it's good fun to be brought somewhere. And this one's an interesting one because it doesn't take me to like rolling green hills or a rocky coastline. This one takes me to a Caribbean island. This is a very tropical whiskey. At least I think so. I have friends who don't agree, but yeah, you get notes like, pineapple and papaya. But I also get like full-blown coconuts and cream. When I sip on this, I get, the white sand beaches, the blue skies, the palm trees, the clear water, the whole thing. And it's weird. It's not like an Irish whiskey or a Highland whiskey that took me there. It's a Springbank. Anyway, some serious pina colada vibes in here, which I think are great. We also have a really nice texture to this. I mentioned my tasting notes. There's an oiliness, but like a light oiliness. Something kind of akin to a coconut oil. It gives it a very creamy, very velvety mouthfeel. In a way, it kind of reminds me of soft water. You know how soft water just kind of hits different? Well, that. What else? This is not a loud whiskey by any means. There's no bells and whistles here. This is not something that's going to blow your mind the moment you sip it. This is one you get to know slowly. It's one you come to appreciate over time. It's delicate, it's gentle, it's subtle, it's bright, it's vibrant, it's clean, it's balanced, it's complex, it's characterful. You could toss around a lot of adjectives. You could spend the time breaking it down and analyzing it, or you could just sip and enjoy viscerally. It works either way. And it really is unique stuff. There's no other whiskey with this profile. Of course, it is triple distilled, it's aged in bourbon barrels, but for me, this is nothing like any Irish I've ever tried or any lowland whiskey I've ever tried. Of course, if you are going to compare it to anything, it would be those, but this is pretty distinctive. Also, a lot of online reviews point out that you get little hints of peat in here, and I totally agree. It's subtle, but it's there. They might be using their own refill barrels that held like Springbank or Longrow before, but it just adds a nice little extra point of interest in this. So on the surface, this seems like a basic whiskey in a style that I wouldn't usually go for, but this stuff is elevated, I think, in no small part thanks to how solid the Springbank distillate is, but we also have cool notes in here. Like I said, we have that creamy lactic funk. We have those subtle hints of earthy peat in here, throw in some minerals, some coconuts, some tropical fruits, and a really silky mouthfeel, and you've got a whiskey that's pretty unlike anything else out there. And on this channel, originality is always appreciated, or I should say well-executed originality is always appreciated. So my score for this one is going to be 87. I think this is as solid as they come for an entry-level whiskey, and I think it's really sophisticated for a 10-year-old. And like I said, this shouldn't be my cup of tea, but I'm into it. I think this is one of those entry-level whiskeys that everyone should try at least once. It's probably not going to blow your socks off, but there's just some really interesting elements to explore in here. So go into this stuff expecting something gentle and easy, and I think if you're familiar with the basic flavor components that we get in Scotch whiskey and how those components usually come together, you'll be able to appreciate just how interesting this whiskey is. Yeah, I think it's really special stuff. Definitely one to check out. So I mentioned earlier that value is getting a little bit iffy on this one. I think most major online retailers still do sell this stuff at a reasonable price, but they tend to sell out pretty quickly. Now where I live, I've seen a pretty dramatic spike in all Springbank products over the last year or so, and I believe that to be true in several other markets as well. I've heard some stories of this reaching some pretty insane prices over in the States. Springbank prices on the secondary market have also been shooting up. Now, this is good whiskey. Obviously, you're going to decide how much you want to spend on it, but just remember that this is an entry-level expression, and it's not worth an uber premium price tag. Alright, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, hit subscribe down below, click that little bell icon, and of course, smash the like. Now, I do want to hear from you. Have you tried our Hazelburn 10 here? What were your thoughts? And finally, down in the comments, let me know what you want to see me review next, and I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.